Centralia, Pennsylvania was once a thriving coal town. Today, it is almost entirely abandoned. A fire has been burning beneath it for over 60 years. In May of 1962, the town of Centralia decided to clean up its landfill. The site was an old strip mine pit, filled with trash. The method of disposal was simple: burn the waste. And on May 27th, workers set the landfill on fire. What they didn't know was that an exposed coal seam lay beneath the garbage. Once the flames reached the coal, the fire became unstoppable. At first, the problem seemed manageable. Local firefighters tried to douse the flames. Excavation efforts sought to cut off the fire's oxygen supply, and none of it worked. By the late 1960s, underground heat caused sinkholes to appear. Poisonous gas leaked through the earth. Residents started reporting headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Still, many refused to leave. Centralia had been built on coal, and its people were not quick to abandon their town. Then in 1981, something happened that changed everything. A 12-year-old boy named Todd Dumboski was playing in his backyard. Suddenly, the ground beneath him collapsed.
I seen smoke, and I thought I didn't want my grandmother to go over near because she's elderly, and I was worried about her, so I went over to see if it was the mine fire, and when I did, I just fell right through.
He fell into a sinkhole over 4 feet wide and nearly 150 feet deep. The only thing that saved him was a tree root, which he grabbed before he could plummet further. He was pulled to safety, but the town had seen enough. The government intervened. In 1984, Congress allocated $42 million to relocate Centralia's residents. Most people accepted the buyouts and left. A few refused, staying behind despite the dangers. As people left, Centralia crumbled. Buildings were torn down. Roads cracked and warped from the heat beneath them. Smoke and toxic gases continued to rise from the ground. And in 1992, Pennsylvania used eminent domain to claim the remaining property. In 2002, the U.S. Postal Service revoked Centralia's zip code. It was as if the town had never existed. Even after the government declared Centralia unsafe, a handful of residents stayed. They fought legal battles for their right to remain. And in 2013, Pennsylvania allowed the last few holdouts to live there until they died. Today, fewer than 5 people call Centralia home. Most of the land has been reclaimed by nature. Spray-painted messages cover the abandoned highway, and smoke still rises from cracks in the earth. Scientists estimate the fire could burn for another 250 years. Centralia will remain a ghost town, lost to an unstoppable blaze. Rhyolite, Nevada, is a ghost town that rose and fell in just over a decade. Its story follows the familiar arc that many boom towns in the American West, built on the promise of gold, fueled by speculation, and ultimately abandoned when reality failed to meet expectations. In 1904, prospectors Frank Shorty Harris and Ernest Cross were exploring the Bullfrog Hills of southwestern Nevada when they stumbled upon something valuable: high-grade gold ore. News of the discovery spread quickly, triggering a rush of miners, investors, and fortune seekers. Harris and Cross's find was just one of several in the area, leading to the rapid formation of mining camps and settlements. And by 1905, Rhyolite was founded as one of the most promising of these camps, taking its name from a local volcanic rock. Investors from all over the country, including well-funded financiers from places like San Francisco and New York, poured money into the town. Rhyolite quickly became more than just a collection of tents and shacks. It was a real city. By 1907, it had a population of around 5,000 people. There were hotels, schools, banks, and saloons. It had its own stock exchange, a hospital, and even an opera house. The town had electricity, running water, and a railway that connected it to larger cities, making it one of the most modern mining settlements in the West. The most famous structure, the Cook Bank Building, was a 3-story concrete structure, the tallest in the region. For a brief moment, Rhyolite seemed destined to become a permanent fixture in the desert, but Rhyolite's success was built on unstable ground. The gold deposits in the area were not as rich as investors had hoped, and mining operations struggled to remain profitable. At the same time, the financial panic of 1907 rattled the U.S. economy, making it difficult for mining companies to secure funding. By 1908, investors began pulling out, and mines started shutting down. The population, once thriving, started to dwindle as miners and business owners left in search of better opportunities. By 1910, fewer than 1,000 people remained. Businesses closed, the banks failed, and by 1916, the town's power company shut off electricity, marking the official death of Rhyolite. After its abandonment, Rhyolite became one of the best preserved ghost towns in the country. Many of its structures, though crumbling, still stand today. The Cook Bank building, once a symbol of prosperity, is now a hollowed-out ruin, its skeletal remains attracting photographers and history buffs. The Bottle House, built by a resident out of thousands of glass bottles, is still intact, preserved as a tourist attraction. Hollywood has used Rhyolite as a backdrop for several films, adding to its mystique, but the town itself remains empty. It exists only as a relic of a time when dreams of gold built entire cities, only for them to disappear just as quickly. Bodie, California, is one of America's most well-preserved ghost towns. Once a thriving gold mining settlement, it now stands frozen in time, its buildings abandoned but still intact, a relic of the Old West. In 1859, a prospector named W.S. Bodie discovered gold in the hills east of the Sierra Nevada. A mining camp quickly formed, though Bodie himself would never see the town's success. He died in a snowstorm the same year. By the late 1870s, Bodie had transformed from a small camp into a booming gold rush town. A massive gold strike in 1876 brought thousands of prospectors, business owners, and outlaws. By 1879, the population had swelled to nearly 10,000 people. The town had over 60 saloons, gambling halls, brothels, and a thriving red light district. The violence was common, with shootouts, robberies, and murders happening regularly. The phrase, "Goodbye God, I'm going to Bodie," reportedly became common among those heading to the town, acknowledging its lawless reputation. Like most boomtowns, Bodie's success was short-lived. By the 1880s, gold production began to decline, and residents started leaving for more promising opportunities. Several fires destroyed portions of the town, and with no major reinvestment in the mines, Bodie's decline accelerated. By 1910, less than 700 people remained. By the 1940s, only a handful of caretakers and seasonal workers lived there. In 1962, the state of California declared Bodie a state historic park. Instead of restoration, Bodie was preserved in a state of arrested decay. Buildings remain standing, interiors left exactly as they were when the last residents departed. Furniture, dishes, and even old newspapers still in place. Many believe the town is cursed. According to legend, taking anything from Bodie, even a small rock, brings bad luck until the stolen item is returned. Park rangers have received countless letters from visitors returning stolen objects, apologizing for misfortunes that followed. Bodie remains one of the best preserved ghost towns in the United States. It serves as a snapshot of the violent, unpredictable nature of the gold rush era. Though its streets are empty, its history lingers, a reminder of how quickly fortunes can rise and fall.